Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm excited for today's video because we're going to talk about how to prepare your houseplants for winter and tips that I do to help them survive and get through till spring. So yeah, I'm excited and thanks for tuning back in, and yeah, let's get started. And tip number one, and something that's really important, is to slow down on your watering. So put the watering can down, and you really want to make sure that you don't overwater your plants in the winter because they are not really growing like they were over the summer. Soil is going to stay wet for longer, and they're kind of focusing their energy on surviving and not really pushing out new growth as much as they were. Another tip that I do when I am trying not to overwater is I will start to bottom water my plants. And if you're not sure what bottom watering is, I'll do a different video on that. But basically, instead of, like watering your plant from the top like this and letting it drain, you actually stick your plant in like a jug or container of water, and you just let it soak up water from the bottom through the holes in the nursery pot. And so the plant will only soak up what it needs, and you're not going to overwater your plant. It'll help keep the top layer of soil dry and prevent fungus gnats. So yeah, those are some tips I do with watering and preventing overwatering. So tip number two is actually going to be to stop cutting your plants and propagating, because they, again, aren't really growing much during the winter, or their growing has slowed significantly. So you don't really want to be stressing your plants out and cutting them and propagating, like you would do in the spring and summer seasons. So I definitely recommend to hold off on cutting your plants in the winter. Plant kind of rest and focus its energy on the next growing season. Tip number three is really important, and that's humidifiers. You're going to want to invest in a humidifier if you don't have one for your plants, especially in the winter, because the air is dry inside your home and outside, and that dry air, the humidity will be less, and your plants don't like that. Especially your tropical plants and humidity loving plants, they're going to want to be in an environment that is more humid to make them and to keep them happy, because if they're in like a really dry climate, it's going to stress them out, and you want to try and keep them as happy as possible to kind of replicate what it's like over the summer. I definitely recommend that you get one if you don't have one. This is just one that I found on Amazon. You can change like how much mist comes out, and it's just refillable. This isn't one that's very expensive at all. Find bigger ones that you don't have to refill as often, and you can find one that you like for your space. But I have a few of these guys, and I run them 24/7 in the winter because I don't like my humidity dropping below 50% for my plants, because they're not going to be happy. And then especially for my humidity loving plants, I have a greenhouse here that I keep some of like my anthuriums and plants that need like greenhouse conditions, especially in the winter. So the humidity in there stays like 80%. Yeah, I definitely recommend you get a humidifier if you don't have one. So tip number four would be to find a good location in your home for the plants in the winter. So if you normally have plants up against your windows or hanging, or their leaves are touching the windows, or it's near a draft, they're probably going to be more sensitive to that. So if you can back your plants away from the window a little bit, or move your plants away from drafty areas, the heat when it comes on, if you can move them back or find a shelf or somewhere in your home that you can move the plants to, they'll be happier. So in the winter, moving on to our next tip, is you're going to want to invest in some grow lights. Like this one here is on a stand, and it has like 3 adjustable arms. There's all kinds of grow lights. You can buy small ones on stands like this one. You can buy ones that are clip-on, that can clip onto a shelf. You can find them that hang from a ceiling, or you can just buy grow lights that are a bulb, and you can actually switch out your normal like lamp light and put in a grow light. I want to provide as much light as possible because the days are shorter and the sun isn't out as long. Plants are going to want that additional light. So the grow lights have timers, and so you just like set the timer. Like I set mine for 12 hours and it comes on automatically. I don't have to do anything with it, and that way something I don't think about. And your plants are really going to thank you for that, because they're going to want to still photosynthesize and get that light. If they're going to be in a dark corner in your house, or they're just not going to do that well. Soil is going to stay wet for longer if it's not getting enough light. Soil stays wet for too long, you're inviting fungus gnats into your home. So going to lead to root rot, and that's something that you don't want. That can be really damaging to your plant and kill your plant. So yeah, it's definitely important to supplement and give your plants additional light in the winter. And tip number 6 would be to stop repotting your plants in the winter unless your plant absolutely needs to be repotted. If it's outgrown its nursery pot, or say, you know, your plant isn't doing that well and you want to check out the roots, then I would say go ahead and repot. But if you just want to repot, just repot. I would hold off until spring. I repot my plants kind of late into the season. Even now, like it being November, I still repot. But you definitely want to not do it if at all possible, because you're just going to stress your plants out. They're just not growing as much, so you don't want to be repotting them and upsizing them when their growth is slowing and it's not like the optimal time of year. And also, if you repot them into a bigger pot size in the winter, the soil is going to stay wet for longer and they're not absorbing that water as fast as they would during the summer, and your soil is going to stay wet for longer. So not only did you repot your plant and stress it out, you're going to leave the soil wet for longer, which is going to lead to root rot and also fungus gnats. And the last tip, tip number 7, would be to make sure you're checking over your plants. When you water the plants, I would actually do like a pest check, because when the air is drier, it invites spider mites into your home. They love dry air, and especially if you have alocasias or calatheas in your home, that's going to attract spider mite. If you are not using humidifiers and you have those like humidity loving plants, they're not going to do well because they're going to crisp up and they most likely will get spider mites. But not only like checking for pests, and say if you do find a pest on your plant, just make sure to quarantine it right away and then do like an appropriate treatment and check the plants around the plant that was affected, because you definitely don't want to spread spider mites to your other plants and lose a lot of your plants because of spider mites. I definitely check my plants over for pests when I water. I just check the undersides of the leaves and on top of the leaves and on the stems, just to be sure that I catch anything early, and then I can quarantine it and treat it. So I hope you find these tips helpful. I do all of these tips during the winter, and I think the most important thing to take from this is to provide your plant with adequate light and a humid environment. Also, you know, check for pests and try not to stress your plants out, and be careful with watering your plants. I hope you find these tips helpful. Let me know if there's any other tips or anything that you do to help keep your plants happy in the winter. I would love to know, so just leave a comment down below. Thank you so much for coming back to another video. I'm going to leave my Instagram here if you want to check me out. It's at PLANTSBYMELISSA. I'm active over there and I post a lot about my own plants. So yeah, thanks for watching. I'm going to do my best not to say the word Child, no, we're not starting this already. I need you to be quiet. Give me that. Okay. Here comes another child, of course, right when I start filming. The children are coming. Keep your plants. Oh my God. No. Child. You kitty cat. Oops, I need my watering can. Where is my watering can? Out of all the plant crop that I have everywhere, my watering can is missing. Billy! Okay. I'm just gonna wear this on my head, you know, because I just keep messing up and I'm not making any sense. If you're not sure what bottom, oh my God. Billy. It's going to prevent, oh my God, I don't want to say lay their eggs. So thanks